Hano kumulipo I ka po, he kane. Hano po ele I ka po, he wahine. Hano ka uku.
In a Hawaiian creation chant called the Kumulipo, the origin of coral, algae, and fishes is described. After a time of darkness, the coral polyp was the first earth life to emerge, then a coral colony. Eventually, all plants and animals would follow this genesis out of the sea. There are Hawaiian legends and stories of gods and goddesses who live in the ocean and take the form of underwater creatures. Many myths explain why certain fish have stripes or look the way they do, or why they gather in certain places. Powerful protective spirits, or aumakua, watch over and guard human families for generations. Some of these are at home in the surrounding sea. Hawaiian Islands are composed of lava that escaped the Earth's core through undersea vents. It all started about 70 million years ago. As the ocean floor moves slowly in a northwest direction, the center of activity forms new islands, while the older ones are chiseled by wind, rain, and the sea. The coral colonies begin to grow within 25 years on new lava flows and slowly establish fringing reefs. These subtropical Hawaiian reefs are some of the most beautiful in the world, comprised of thousands of species of fish, mollusks, and other plants and animals. It's here that we'll take you to this unfamiliar world, to the ancient land of Hawaii that few have seen before. The urge to explore the undersea realm began thousands of years ago when man thought it was inhabited by monsters. As time went on, all sorts of devices were concocted to plummet the ocean depths. Imagination ran wild, and pioneers like Jules Verne created machines and heroes of fancy that actually live 20,000 leagues under the sea. But maybe this isn't so absurd after all. Science has almost caught up with fiction. In just a century, submarine technology has advanced to a point where we can remain submerged hundreds of feet for weeks at a time. Each year, the possibilities increase, bringing Captain Nemo's ultimate diving machine closer to reality. At the forefront of submersible technology, Atlantis Submarines discovered a new and very refreshing concept: passenger-carrying subs that take peaceful and inobtrusive tours to the rich reef zones, where visitors can comfortably witness firsthand the undersea environment. This is the story of Atlantis, the first passenger submersible in the world. The Big Island of Hawaii is the largest and youngest island in the Hawaiian archipelago. Molten lava still pours into the sea. It's a battle between the forces of fire and water that eventually the ocean will win. On Kona's western or sheltered coast, reef-building corals have begun to colonize over a network of lava flows. This was the first Hawaiian reef Atlantis Submarines would explore. Arriving in 1988, they received a warm aloha and have been at home ever since. This area of Kona has many wahipana, what Hawaiians call storied places. On the shuttle ride out to the submarine, the historic Kona coastline can be seen resting on the long slopes of Mauna Loa, the most massive mountain on Earth. Atlantis lies waiting to take these passengers on a tour they'll never forget. In air-conditioned comfort, the 48-passenger, 65-foot sub travels in an area where gardens of coral are already visible through the individual viewports, 13 on each side. Maintaining a speed of about 1 knot through this shallow expanse, the young reef and its inhabitants are introduced. The pilot's front viewing window is over 4 feet in diameter. Pilots for Atlantis are specially trained to operate this DC battery-powered electric submarine, a marvel of technology. There are 2 stern thrusters, 2 vertical thrusters, and 1 at the bow for careful maneuvering. Above water, the support boat pilot keeps watch and constant contact with the sub, and divers prepare to put on a show underwater. As the Atlantis sub moves out to meet the divers, shoals of fish move in all directions, illuminated by the sun. A safe distance is maintained above the delicate corals so as not to damage the living creatures there. Reefs grow only about an inch a year. The pilot and co-pilot monitor the distance from the bottom at all times. The divers arrive. They can only stay down 10 minutes at a time at this depth of about 85 feet. The fish that immediately surround them are common in all Hawaiian waters. Schools of surgeonfish called palani and pu'alu have razor-sharp blades near the end of their tails. Humuhumu ele are the ones that seem to flap wings through the water. These are triggerfish or black durgeon. The black and white striped fish are Hawaiian sergeant majors or mamo, a kind of damselfish. And the yellow school is blue-striped snapper or ta'ape, an introduced fish from Tahiti. Now in great abundance, they're seen on every dive. When it comes to food, they're not very shy. Small millet seed butterfly fish, or lauvilivili, make a more timid approach. There's a rhythm down here that has nothing to do with the world above, an interaction based on hunger and curiosity. Carefully selected examples of reef life are gathered to show close up to the passengers, like this small sea urchin. It's respectfully placed back on the reef in its own little niche. A triton's trumpet is brought to the viewports. This shell was called pupuhi and was fashioned into musical instruments. The divers' 10 minutes are not complete without showing off. They don't leave the scene until everyone's had some laughs. There are 44 species of coral in Hawaiian waters. Small animals live within the polyps and feed on plankton drifting in the water. Their hard skeletons form limestone, the only organically made rock in the world. Sand is continually made through erosion of shells and coral and from the digested matter of coral-eating fish. One adult parrotfish, or uhu, can produce up to 1 ton of sand a year by munching on the reef and eliminating the waste matter. The coral gardens support a bounty of life. Tiny particles of plankton floating in the ocean become food for reef fishes. These surgeonfish are vegetarians and feed on debris and algae on the sandy bottom. Smaller reef fish stay close to their coral homes, and each has a role to play in this balanced ecosystem. There's a logic to the dance of aggression and survival. 25% of Hawaii's fish are endemic or found only in these waters. Isolated from other land masses for so long, they have evolved unique characteristics. These yellow tangs were called lau'ipala in Hawaiian. They're eating small particles of algae in the coral. The similar-looking black gold ring variety is called kole. All butterfly fish were called kikakapu. The ornate butterflies swim in pairs like most of the other 22 species in island waters. The raccoon butterfly fish is one of the most flamboyant. Hawaiians were inspired to be more descriptive with the long-nosed butterfly fish, the lauvilivili nukunuku oi oi, meaning the little fish with a long nose shaped like a vilivili leaf. Many fish species change color and sex during their life cycles. Often a male, female, and juvenile look entirely different. Wrasses are the most versatile and striking of the color changers. One of the most enchanting fish on the reef is the Moorish idol, or kihi-kihi. They search the vicinity for sponges to eat. Moray eels hide out in their adopted holes, brilliantly camouflaged. An octopus, or he'e, peers out of a crevice. A stranger inhabitant of the reef is the trumpet fish. These predators can change color to match their environment for a better disguise. Their mouths are designed to vacuum in unsuspecting prey. They can turn yellow when lau'ipala are nearby. Pufferfish resemble something from another planet. This spotted puffer is a slightly different species called o'opu hu'e. O'opu means stomach in Hawaiian. As a defense mechanism, puffers blow up like a balloon when agitated. All of these species can be clearly seen from the Atlantis viewports, a world witnessed before only by divers. Sometimes larger predators appear in deeper water. This is a rare view of the white-tipped reef shark. Sharks, or mano, play a large part in Hawaiian myth and folklore, said to save or protect their human families. graceful manta rays glide over the sand, their wingspan sometimes reaching 20 feet. After a 50-minute tour, so much more is known about this underwater world that changes every day. The sub lands briefly in a sandbank about 85 feet down and prepares for a signal to surface. As inobtrusively as it appeared, the Atlantis sub leaves the coral wilderness as it was. More than 2 million people have journeyed on Atlantis subs somewhere the world over since 1985. At a cost of $3.5 million, each sub is flawlessly designed and built to the highest standards, thoroughly inspected and certified for 150-foot dives. Atlantis has a home in 7 other locations, including the Caribbean, Mexico, and Guam. But it was a natural choice to come to Hawaii to reveal some of the glories of its unique underwater environment. The island of Maui was formed by the activity of 2 volcanoes. Haleakala, or House of the Sun, is the youngest. The older volcano is composed of deeply eroded cliffs and lush valleys, forming the West Maui Mountains. A partial fringing reef has had time to establish itself off of Maui's protected shorelines. A shallow shelf connects the islands of Maui, Molokai, Lanai, and Kaho'olawe, having all been one island before the sea level dropped thousands of years ago. Endangered humpback whales find this particularly inviting and visit every winter to mate and give birth in these warmer waters. The Maui Atlantis tour out of Lahaina Harbor is special because the submarine will journey to the deepest it can go, 150 feet. It's a 2-mile shuttle trip out to the boarding site with a spectacular view. Atlantis slowly descends into deep blue liquid space. She will submerge about 95 feet to a region of thriving coral growth. The pilot gently maneuvers the 80-ton sub through the O'o Channel. It's some of the most beautiful diving in Hawaii, with scattered coral outcrops extending all the way to Lanai. Prominent schools of ta'ape, black durgeon, and surgeonfish patrol the reef. This protruding colony of coral is nicknamed the Hobbit Hilton by the Atlantis staff because it presents an entire condominium full of residents. A massive coral settlement like this is home and sanctuary for many varieties of fish and plant life. They might gather at the station of the local cleaner wrasse, a splendidly colored fish whose job it is to clean parasites and debris off of other fish's skin. The interdependence of creatures here may involve many relationships unknown to us. It's just a brief passage into a world that existed long before we were able to witness it. Here is where small trees of black coral bloom. Hawaiians named it Ikahaku Mo'ana and used it as a medicine in ancient times. Atlantis dives deeper to a range of lava ledges and caverns. Atlantis ventures into the territory of the pyramid butterfly fish, that linger around coral trees, protecting their property by flashing a bright white spot at intruders. From the outside, a cavern looks foreboding, armored by a forest of coral trees. Once inside, it's as if the trees are decorated with bright, colorful ornaments. Long-nosed butterfly fish, the lau vili vili nuku nuku oi oi, feed on small crustaceans and coral algae in hard-to-reach places. Upside down, they comb the roof of the cavern, where another type of coral algae is a crimson color. The long-nosed hawkfish is only found near black coral. It keeps a sharp lookout for tiny crustaceans and worms that prosper in the branches. Along the outside ledge, a reddish sponge thrives, and numerous forms of life find a dwelling place. As Atlantis reaches the rim of the old lava ledge, large schools of ta'ape come into view, drifting and swirling on the current. This is the deepest that the sub goes, 150 feet down. Here, ancient lava walls form an undersea mountain range. After a 50-minute dream-like journey, the pilot travels to the area of surfacing. At this maximum depth, a whaling anchor about 140 years old lies on the sandy bottom, a deserted relic of Lahaina's history. Again, Atlantis awaits the signal for the 2 to 3 minute ascent to the top. Pressurized air fills her ballast tanks, and vertical thrusters lift her toward the sky. Atlantis Submarines also tours Oahu with an entirely different focus. Here, you have to dig a little deeper under the surface. Deeper underground, because all of the plains beneath Honolulu are limestone, a huge remnant of compressed and solidified coral. It formed over 100,000 years ago when the area was underwater and coral built itself over the lava flows. Oahu, like Maui, is also formed by 2 volcanoes, now eroded into long ridgelines. A partial fringing reef flourishes in certain protected areas. Besides being the most famous beach in the world, Waikiki is the most visited area in the state, receiving 75% of the 6.5 million tourists a year. At one time, it was a network of rich wetland taro and royal fish ponds. But through the course of time, the coastal environment was altered to accommodate development. The natural reef was dredged and sand was brought in to create more beach area. That's why Atlantis decided to create artificial reef structures off the coast of Waikiki to join in a research effort to discover how an area can be replenished and how long it takes. The Waikiki Submarine Tour is a lesson in ecology as well as another fun and exciting introduction to Hawaiian reef life. The tour off Waikiki descends to a depth of about 85 feet to the first artificial reef structure. Schools of opelu, or mackerel, hover near the surface. These ladder-like constructions weigh about 27 tons and are part of a University of Hawaii research project in partnership with Atlantis Hawaii. It has attracted a huge variety of familiar fishes and supporting plant and animal organisms. The surfaces are encrusted with new plant and animal life, a garden tended by these plankton-eating fishes. These small openings provide shelter for residents from predators and strong currents. Preliminary testing has shown that the marine life in the Atlantis Reef area has multiplied about 3,000 times since inception. The next experimental reef structure was designed and fabricated in the city of Asahi, Japan. In this manner, the Japanese cultivate nutritious seaweed for sushi and other fine foods. It's made of fiberglass and weighs about 25 tons. Not to be mistaken for Moorish idols, these black and white striped pennant fish seem to match the delicate rings of the Asahi Reef. And the Lauvilivili also have adopted this as their private feeding ground. Traveling down to about 110 feet, the sub continues its underwater flight to the deepest artificial reef. A Mitsubishi YS-11 airplane was placed here and opened up to allow shelter and plenty of room for fish. Damselfish have claimed part of it as an egg-laying site and will energetically defend their patch of algae. But the best part of the show lies silent a short distance away. The sunken Navy oil tanker YO-257, a veteran of 3 wars, is Hawaii's largest shipwreck. It was built 50 years ago. Who would have thought it would end up providing life to thousands of sea creatures off the coast of Waikiki? Coral and encrusting algae growths have sprouted up from the decks. Large holes were cut so the fish could maneuver around inside and find privacy or refuge. It's one of the highlights of daily scuba diving tours. This is Ernie. Ernie has moved into an old pipe and can always be found here, keeping watch over the whole parade. The population of ocean citizens here is amazing, considering how short a time it took to colonize the ship. It's different every day, but you can always count on the schools of Ta'ape and, of course, Ernie. That's another one of the Atlantis subs in Waikiki, viewing the wreckage from the other side. The pilot heads for the surfacing area now, near the lava flow called Pali'opono, or Ridge of Life. The Atlantis adventure is not only beautiful, but teaches a valuable lesson about conservation of our precious Hawaiian reefs and marine life resources.
Malama'aina.
Malama'aina. Care for the land, or Aina, and it will care for you. The Aina for Hawaiians extends all the way from the mountain to the seafloor. Lokahi. Unity, balance, and harmony with nature. Mana'o'i'o. A respect for the things of nature and the true spirit, or mana, they have.
Aloha Aina.
Aloha Aina, the love of this land.
No laila, pono no kako e aloha ai malama I ia Aina nei.
These images might remain in your dreams long after you've left. You'll remember the softness and mystery, the rhythm and spirit of Hawaii beneath the surface.